A very good morning and assalamu alaikum to our viewers. We are coming to you live from Nazareth at the G20 summit held in Johannesburg, South Africa. With us, we have Dr. Oscar van Heerden, who is an international relations expert. A very good morning to you, Doctor. Can you tell us what the current feel is like of this G20 event held in Nazareth this morning?
I think it's all about excitement. People are excited. South Africans are excited. As you know, South Africa is on showcase. The showcase is South African. People think it's only about what's happening here at the G20 venue, but actually staff of the local hotels where the leaders are staying, the staff at the International Tambo Airport, JMPD, everyone needs to put their best foot forward in order to make a success of this G20. I think the Trump story was in the news. That's yesterday. Today we are focusing on the leaders that are here, on what they are going to say, the commitments they are going to make, and I think everyone is looking forward to President Ramaphosa's address at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Speaking of the preparation that went into this whole G20 with the security cluster and everything, South Africa has really demonstrated to the globe its ability to hold down when it comes to security. What does that say about South Africa particularly? And I know you say that the issues of Trump are issues of yesterday, but what does this then demonstrate to countries or superpowers like the United States when it comes to such? Because it's no small thing to host world leaders and actually maintain the security at the level in which South Africa has maintained thus far.
No, absolutely. This is not our first rodeo, as you know. We've hosted the Soccer World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. We've hosted the International Conference of Anti-Racism in Ethekwini. We've hosted the BRICS formation here in Johannesburg. So we know how to host and how to host international leaders. And so for us, it's not so much about worried about security. The issue is also about a stable, strong democracy. South Africa don't have extremist groups that threaten the government or the people. We have a problem with crime, but even the criminals know that if you showcase the country, now is not the time to try and be a rotten apple. So I think that it shows that South Africa and Africa can host these big events. We can make you feel safe. We can make you feel at home. And I think that when leaders leave here after this weekend, they're going to leave with being thoroughly impressed with South Africa and Africa.
Most definitely, Doc. Let's talk power shifts and global governance. How would you describe the current redistribution of global power, particularly with emerging countries and markets such as South Africa, India, China, and how they are gaining more dominance versus the traditional superpowers and them facing their domestic constraints? What do we see about this shift?
This is such an important question, Lisa. You know, the truth of the matter is the reason why we're seeing an inculturate USA, the reason why we're seeing bully tactics is because the power and hegemony of the United States is waning. The world is shifted. The global south is now a player. China, India, BRICS, and the likes. And the Europeans are realizing it. That's why they are here. They are not going to identify with Trump wanting to boycott. They understand that their future is inseparably linked to what happens in Africa and the global south. And this is how the power has shifted. And Trump, unfortunately, there's no strategic thinking taking place in Washington. They are isolating themselves. The world is seeing it. And unfortunately, bully tactics is not going to work.
As the president would say, we will not be bullied. Doc, can you tell me, with the way in which Washington has behaved from the time this presidency was handed over to South Africa? I mean, we've seen diplomacy 101 being played by South Africa, very diplomatic in its approach. What would you say, how would you say that looks to Washington and the issue of multilateralism? Has the United States played its wrong cards? Because this was diplomacy put on a public global stage. We do know that there was the issue of boycott, and that didn't work. So what does this say in terms of the diplomacy that was shown by what is supposed to be a superpower towards a country like South Africa?
You know, I think the Secretary General of the United Nations, Guterres, has put it so nicely. Throughout this entire saga, he says that what he saw from the South African government and from the South African leadership in Ramaphosa was dignified, It was about being diplomatic about it and not stooping to the level of the Trump administration. And I think this is what we want to, the message that South Africa wants to send out, is that mutual respect is what is required in diplomacy. Treat us like equals so that we can speak as equals. But unfortunately, it seems this is not how Trump wants to continue. Already we hear, they said to the Secretary of Commerce, saying that when the G20 comes to Miami next year, it's about the American people and what the American people are going to benefit. It's such a message that is completely in contradiction to what currently is about multilateralism. It's about the global south. It's about developing economies. And this is the agenda that Ramaphosa is trying to push.
Looking at the theme of South Africa's G20, but also looking at the weakening trust in such institutions, do you think that the G20 and a BRICS forum and the likes would enable countries or the people of the countries or these formations? Do you think that regains their trust with such forums?
The key word here is multilateralism. This is how we are going to solve the problems of the globe. And this is the message that the Ramaphosa administration and the presidency of the G20 is trying to bring across. We have to come together to try and resolve the problems that we are facing. We cannot do it on our own. We cannot do it in isolation. And unfortunately, as I say, if the Trump administration can't see this, then it's their loss, because the world is rallying behind this G20, behind the concept of multilateralism, and realizing that it is BRICS formations, it's the G20, it's the ASEAN group. Those are the formations that are going to solve the problems of the world.
Yeah. And lastly, Doc, what does South Africa successfully hosting this G20, what does it mean, not just for South Africa, but the African continent? Obviously, given the history of Africa and its inclusion, we also see that South Africa does want a seat on the Security Council at the United Nations. What does hosting such an event of this magnitude say for South Africa and for Africa? What does the future look like after this event?
I think it demonstrates that South Africa can be that leader. It can be a voice for the continent. Of course, as you know, the African Union is now also a member of the G20 since 2023. But Cyril is really demonstrating that, trust us, we do put the 2063 agenda on the agenda of the International Forum, and we can represent you. And I think today at 10 o'clock, it would be remiss of the president not to realize, standing on that platform, he better make a damn good speech, because the world is watching.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Heerden. That was Dr. Oscar. He's an international relations expert speaking to us about everything multilateralism, South Africa's role in hosting and successfully hosting the G20, and what this actually means for Africa. South Africa, obviously, we know, wanting to gain a seat on the United Nations Security Council and how that would look like. So do stay tuned. The president will be making his speech at 10 a.m. We'll be bringing you more.